Hello, FedPhoenix fam. So, some of you may be noticing that my videos are more steady, right? And I'm in a different location. Actually, on a tight budget, got a little desk and stuff and set it up in a corner of my bedroom. So I have somewhere to really work more on brand related things like my book and calculating people's time and making videos and all that kind of stuff. I think that having my workspace kind of a little pieces all over the place has been very counterproductive, and to have it all in one centralized location I think is going to probably help out in the long run. And the videos are more steady because now I'm using a selfie stick tripod thing to make them versus just holding my phone. So I'm gradually and very, very tiny little baby steps, trying to upgrade the video quality and the brand itself and the presentation and whatever. So just a little something. So I have a whole list of things to do videos on over the next whatever. And so I'm going to pick one. Okay, I'm going to do one on over-serving your federal prison time. Because I need to do one that's kind of short because I got to go help some family with something in a minute. And then I promised my son I'd take him to the park. And so, as always, in the middle of 100 things. But when I say over-serving your federal prison time, let me tell you what that means. And this is a very common thing, particularly in certain facilities. You will find that no matter what federal prison you go to and what security level, whatever, more often than not, the staff will do the very bare minimum paperwork-wise, and often it's very last minute. And their own lack of preparedness will cause a certain amount of frustration, which they will then take out on you. So, welcome to the crap show. But when I say over-serving your prison time, like I over-served my prison time. A lot of people say, oh, well, you should sue the Bureau of Prisons, or you should sue Alderson, or yada yada. And if you think I came home and I didn't talk to some lawyers to see if that was an option, you'd be wrong. Because I did, and it's not an option. And I'm going to explain why. So, my sentence was 24 months, right? Now, mind you, low level, like literally the lowest felony level of the crime that I pled guilty to. Nonviolent, victimless crime, no criminal history points. I was a person who was very embedded in my community as a single parent, as a person who's just very community oriented, and as a person who also was assisting my elderly mother and stepfather. My stepfather died a couple days before I self-surrendered. He was on hospice when I was sentenced and home. So, like, literally the recidivism risk, almost non-existent, minimum on both pattern scores, yada, yada. So, I was sentenced to 24 months in prison, which, after you take away the good time that you automatically get up front on your first comp sheet, that knocks me down to about 21 months. And then they will give you 10% of your sentence, or 6 months, whichever is less, will be designated as your halfway house time, in the initial computation. So for me, this would have meant like 19 months in prison, 2 months in a halfway house with just good time alone. Of course, if I opted out of halfway house, which you guys know I'm not a fan of that, I would have been doing about 21 months in prison and coming home to just probation, no halfway house or home confinement. So having said that, when I was in prison, I went in during the height of the COVID epidemic, which if you think things were concerning in the free world, you will not even be able to fathom the conditions inside prisons during COVID. Particularly prisons like where I was at, that's like a satellite camp with no doctor and an abundance of people with pre-existing notable chronic illnesses as the inmates. So when I went into prison, this is no longer a thing, by the way. But because of CARES Act, right? If you had 2 years or less, you were required to serve 25% of your original sentence and would be allowed to do the remaining of the sentence on home confinement if you met certain criteria, which I met all of it. I was a poster child for it. So I should have went home after 6 months in prison. The warden at the time refused to sign off on it because, well, she had a personal bias against people with drug charges, and I had a drug charge. Even though my paperwork was very clear, I was not buying, selling, or using any drugs. I simply was a person who was a little too closely connected to a person who happened to be selling very large quantities of drugs. And I turned a blind eye to some of their BS, and in that way, somewhat enabled them. So fast forward. Now with FSA, because again, I was a poster child for First Step Act, for earning credits off my time. And my good time, because I didn't have not one disciplinary infraction my entire stay. I was really focused on not getting more time and getting home with my family who desperately needed me as quickly as humanly possible. That was the priority, It was the priority over being right in arguments. It was the priority over giving a crap what other inmates thought about me or how I handled things. None of that mattered. None of that mattered because I really focused on this as temporary, and I got to get to the other side of this thing as expeditiously as possible because there are people who need me to be on the other side, who deserve that. And they have that coming for me, and I got to get it to them as quick as I can, right? So with FSA and good time, right? I should have went to a halfway house, and Second Chance Act, which everyone gets, by the way, too. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm eligible for Second Chance Act. Don't forget to factor that when you do my calculation. Honey, everybody gets it. Literally everyone. The only way you don't get it is if you get it, go to prison, and mess up enough that you've lost literally everything they can take from you, and that's all that's left to take. Then they'll take that. So anyway, I should have, after about 11 months in prison, if I didn't get the cares, right? After about 11 months in prison, with FSA and stuff, I should have been transferred to a halfway house, right? Or home confinement, whichever. And I should have done a couple months in the halfway house. And then any remaining time of my sentence, I should have been transferred from the halfway house to home confinement to finish that time. Because I'd earned that. Unfortunately, on a 24-month sentence, I did 16 months. And if you're wondering how the heck is that possible, right? Oh, and then even if I would have said, not doing halfway house, it would have been 13 months with my good time in my FSA before I would have maxed out and should have been home, completely done with the prison system and just moving on to federal probation. But unfortunately, around the time that the FSAs should have been getting me out of prison, I went to the case manager and I said, hey, I know I should be going home soon, once all my credits catch up, because back then the FSA credits didn't hit every month like clockwork like they do now. It was very sporadic. Some months none would hit. Some months people get 7 months worth of FSAs just boom at one time. So I said, I know that once my credits hit, I'll be going home with FSA. Is there anything I can do on my end to make this process easier for you? Because my concern is that they will all hit at once. I'll be an immediate release and things will kind of be a mad dash. So is there anything that I need to let my family be aware of to make sure that they pass the home inspection? Do you need me to sign anything? Do you need me to verify my home plan? What can I do to make this easier for you? Pretty much. And she said, oh, well, don't you have a drug charge? I said, yes, I do. I have a communications facility drug charge, the lowest level of this, in fact. And she said, oh, well, the warden's not gonna let you, continue to get FSA credits because you have a drug charge. I said, but wait a minute. I've literally read multiple times the 18-page part of the First Step Act that specifically refers to inmates, earning time off their sentence, off the back end of their sentence through programming and good behavior and such. And I know for a fact that I meet every single requirement. Like I am the ideal person, in fact, for this. And she said, well, it's not my job to know the law or any kind of policy or whatever. My job is to do what the warden says. And the warden has made it clear that people with drug charges will not be leaving up out of here on no FSA or no cares or compassionate release or none of that. Okay. And shortly thereafter, I got a new comp sheet letting me know, hey, by the way, you're no longer FSA eligible. per the warden, because you have a drug charge. And of course, I did admin remedies on both of these issues, the CARES and the FSA. I wrote my judge. My judge wrote a letter to the warden and said, Ms. Thompson has made me aware, and this is what she's saying, and, assuming that what she's telling me is correct, and if it's not, please let me know. But I would strongly recommend you reconsider your position of her being FSA ineligible. That went completely ignored, by the way, by the warden. Finally, I managed to notice that one of the administrators was getting very frustrated watching a whole bunch of women have to overserve their time. This is what I mean by overserve your time. Due to the warden's personal prejudice and a general lack of professionalism by some of the other higher level staff. And so I approached her. I explained my situation, and I said, this isn't about me going home because prison sucks. This is about me going home because I have an underage child who's missed an entire year of school due to the complications of a custody situation that cannot be resolved while I'm incarcerated. I need to go home because my mother's cancer, we don't know if it's gone or not. We just know that she got half a kidney removed due to renal cell carcinoma right before I came to prison, and can't follow up, so over a year prior, and can't follow up with her doctors because I'm not home to take care of those things for her and get her back and forth. That's why I should be going home. One, because it is legally what is supposed to happen, but more importantly, because there are people who are far more significant than me that need and deserve for me to be the heck home. And thankfully, she got a hold of someone. She said, I can't mess with it because the warden will know it was me and I'm not losing my job. But I will I would talk to somebody I know at regional about your situation, have them look at your file. If they think you're right, then I would imagine you will get your FSA eligibility back. And with as long as you've been in here already, and the fact that you've been earning credit since you got here, you'd probably be an immediate release. And I waited and I waited. The next wave of FSAs hit on a Friday. People were all weekend calling their family, check online, see if my date has changed. That's how you initially know, that you got some credits. Mine wasn't. Finally, Sunday night it did. Monday morning, I found out I'm an immediate release, that I had overserved my max stay, right? That's if I refused halfway house or home confinement. If I just did my time with just good time and FSA as the only deductions. I had overstayed by like 2 months. 2 or 3 months, actually. And I said, great, I got family 3 hours away. Let me make a phone call. In 4 hours or less, I can have someone here to pick me up. Ready to go. And they said, absolutely not. Not at all. No. You're going to have to wait probably 3 days, because we legally have 3 days once we're informed that you've overserved your time, that you are an immediate release, to process you out and get you out of here. And you aren't the only immediate release with this wave of FSAs, so it's going to probably take us the full 3 days to get to it. So enjoy your next 72 hours still in prison. Literally not until I got on the bus and it was moving from Beckley, West Virginia, from about an hour away from the prison, the nearest Greyhound station, was it real to me that I was actually going home. And so this is very common, sadly. Now, the CARES thing doesn't really apply anymore. And with FSAs, like I said, it's on a far more routine application schedule. So less and less people are going through the crap. When I was in prison, a lot of folks didn't get credits for a period of time just because of all the glitches in the system. And then when they finally did get their credits, they were an immediate release and they had overserved by days, weeks, or months. And there is no compensation for this. There is no recourse. Legally, and I've spoke to, again, many lawyers and even studied case law on it myself because I was willing to represent myself if there was a shooting chance here of being compensated for this. But legally, unless they keep you detained beyond your entire original sentence, so for me it would have been beyond 24 months to the day, then I have not legally been wrongly incarcerated as a person who's overserved. Additionally, whatever time you have on probation is really a suspended sentence in many ways. Because let's say you do your whole sentence day for day, and then you got 3 years of paper. Well, when you come home, if there's some issues, you can be sent back to prison to serve some of that probation as prison time. So during that 3 years, even if you don't catch a new charge, you may find yourself doing a month, 3 months, 6 months, a year back in prison, or doing a month, 3 months, or 6 months in the county jail as a shocker. So This is just a short video explaining what is meant when people say they overserve their time or they believe they're overserving their time, which happens a lot. Now, if there's an issue with your pattern scores and something is not being calculated right, so even though you've earned FSAs, you're not able to apply them, and that's keeping you in prison. Generally, you can do admin remedies. For some people that pans out. For most people it doesn't. You can file a habeas corpus, which basically is saying that either the amount of time you're serving or the environment you're serving your time in is not appropriate to your sentence or to your circumstances. And a habeas corpus would usually go directly to your judge. And I know that sounds fancy in Latin, but I promise you, before you go to prison, Google it, get a little familiar with it, because it's a very simple thing to do on your own that you can do while being an inmate, to file a habeas corpus, with your judge. So that's just a little bit on people over-serving their times and what that means and how it happens. With that, like I said, I gotta make this one kind of short. I'm in the middle of 100 different things. And once I get my room, like, a little more presentable, I'll probably do like a 360 with the phone, since you guys are in my bedroom anyway, so you can actually kind of see. Plus, I think the realistic growth of from nothing to 15 months after prison and literally step by step putting it together is something that's worth seeing. Like these mirrors behind me, Dollar Tree. Got them from the Dollar Tree, got some painter's tape and some cardboard, spray painted the frames, got some little appliques, did that. Like, I made them what they are. When I got them, they were horrid and tacky. But this is the budget I'm working with, so I work with it. Speaking of budgets, my Cash App and PayPal will be in the description, as will a link to the merch line, as will my email if you need to get a hold of me for any reason. And whatever you're going through, remember, it is a slice of your life. You will get through it because you have to. So with that, good day. God bless.